Hi, this is Deborah Clutter, and today we're going to be working on finishing the table runner that we started with the big block in the center. That was the sunflower block from the first video, and then we worked on the smaller little star sunflower blocks. And then in this video we're going to finish the rest of the block, put the sashing on. Sorry, I don't have a big enough space anywhere to film the whole thing because it's so big. And then we'll put the borders on and complete the table runner. It's actually a pretty good size. If you want to make this into a wall hanging, then you just need to, let me see if I can move back. Then you just need to put all the sunflowers the same way. Okay, so here's what it looks like. I know, kind of ridiculous, huh? But really, I got this big room, but it's really hard to find a place to record things, so I'm doing the best I can. Anyway, I hope you enjoy making this. I hope you made one. I mean, come on, this is really cool. I really like this. And the next video we're going to be working on, I'm just going to quilt it and then we'll put the binding on. And I'm thinking about doing something a little different with the binding, but we'll see. I haven't quite got it all figured out yet, but we'll see on the next video. So hope you enjoyed this. It's going to be a very short video. It's not that hard to put the rest of this together, and I'll have the pattern in the description down below so you can download the rest of it and finish your project. Thanks. Here's the supplies you need to finish your table runner. You're going to need some green batik for your leaves, and that's what your leaves look like. I got ahead of myself and already did my block, so I don't have the cut pieces for you. You're going to need to cut your pieces for the background of your block, and all the sizes are in the pattern. You're going to need a green piece for your stem, and you're going to need some black 1.5 inch strips for your sashing and your border. So cut 24.5. You might want to wait until you get your blocks together. If your piecing is off a little bit, you'll have to measure it first. But it should come out to 24.5. And then sew the remaining on the diagonal like this. And then we'll use that for the border. So here's our leaf block, and it's pretty easy to paper piece. We're just going to fold over section 2, trim it, and then sew one of our little corner triangles on, with a 1.8 seam allowance, or a seam 1.8 stitch leaf. Words confused there. And then just go ahead and do the other side. And it really doesn't matter which side you choose to start with first. And it just goes on just like that. Looks just like that. Now you're just going to iron those and then trim your block. Once you have all your leaves paper piece, just go ahead and remove all the papers. And we're going to do a little bit of decorative stitching on this. You can skip this if you don't want to do that, but it's probably a good chance to use something on your machine you haven't used before. Like those decorative stitches we never get around to using. And it'll be fun. So Just take those all off. And you can either use this paper, you can put some iron-on stabilizer on the back, or you can use some tearaway stabilizer for embroidery to do your decorative stitches. I'm going to use the tearaway, so just decide what you're going to use, and I'll see you at the sewing machine. All right, so we're going to add a decorative stitch to our leaves, and I went ahead and drew a line from this corner to this corner on my leaves with a friction pen. I'm going to put this decorative stitch in right here, and it's actually a combination of two, so I need to have a line so that I make sure I can go back down the other side straight. Just pick whatever one you want on your machine. I'm using embroidery thread on my machine to stitch this, and I'm just going to put my tearaway stabilizer down and position my needle. So depending on how your machine works, you may have a function that lets you finish the last motif, and then you can, it stops stitching and cuts the thread, or you may not, so you may have to just, stop it yourself. So I stitched this side, and now I'm going to mirror the stitching and do the other side. So I tried to get these to line up, and no matter how hard I do, they still get off a little bit. I mean, this was not too bad, but, and then you can just tear off the paper after you're done. And there's going to be a little bit in the stitching, but just be careful when you're tearing it, because you want to kind of use your fingernail around the stitches so it doesn't, pull your stitches out. Now, you don't have to be too concerned about this paper in your quilt. It's not really going to make much difference. And that's kind of what it looks like when it's done. And so go ahead and finish all of yours if you're going to put decorative stitching on it. If not, then I guess you're finished with this part. After you get your leaves done, go ahead and start putting your block together. So it should look like this. So use the diagram. Set it up like this and sew your sashing in between the blocks, and then sew all your blocks together. So that's the next step after you get your two pieces done. And just make one upside down so that no matter which way you turn your table runner, it's not going to look like it's upside down. So go ahead and sew those together, and we'll see you back when you're finished. After your table runner is sewn together, after you sewed all your sashing together, it should look like this. Sorry, my camera is not high enough to get the full picture, but this thing is looking really beautiful. Now, if you wanted to make this a wall hanging, I would probably put both the sunflowers on the end going the same direction, but mine's going to sit on a table. So measure your quilt. It should be 46.5 this way. And you're going to cut 2 borders for the top and put those on. Measure it again. And those should measure, after you get those 2 borders on, the side borders should be 26.5. And if they're not, just, measure it in 3 places and take the average. And that's what you're going to make your border strip, that length, after you're finished. So go ahead and sew all your borders on. Here's the completed table runner, and that's what it should look like when it's all done. And I think it looks pretty good. It is a quite large table runner, but I mean, this table is pretty small. It's an old 50s table, and it barely fits on here. but I think it's awful pretty.